Back to SportsLine here on News Channel 5 Plus. We are pleased to be joined by veteran radio, television, print, guys covered Nashville sports for a long time, Greg Pogue. I'm pleased to say that I join him every weekday morning on WNSR Radio, Nashville Sports Radio, for the Greg Pogue and Jon Burton show. It's been a blast. We've been at it since about the middle of November. Yeah. We made it through the holidays, and so you haven't thrown me out yet, so I appreciate that. But yeah, we have a good time. Of course, we are the home of Vanderbilt Athletics, and a lot going on West End. Of course, last week with the news that after a year and 3 days, Malcolm Turner is out as AD, Candace Story-Lee in as interim AD for now. And we've heard all kinds of stories about what led to Malcolm Turner's departure, maybe the misuse or overspending of funds. And we talked about this last week on the show. Listen, Vanderbilt's a private university. They don't have to divulge anything if they don't want to. They're not a state school. But it's just not a good look for, Vanderbilt. When you look at where they stand in the SEC, especially from a football standpoint, that they've had their share of issues and trying to establish themselves as players in the SEC. It's just not a good look. I feel great about Candace Story-Lee and what she can do. But, when you look back at Malcolm Turner's brief tenure as AD, it's not a good look for the university. Well,
he was an out-of-the-box hire. We know that right away by former Chancellor Zeppos, who didn't stay around to leave the guidance. Right. And so you have an acting chancellor there, and eventually this summer, June, or whenever they get around to hiring a new chancellor.
July, I believe.
Okay, and so there was, but the Stackhouse hire, I tend to like it. I mean, but you look at this, the last 2 years, Darius Garland last year.
Right.
What was he, a top 10 draft pick? Yep. And Michael Neesmith, even with his knee injury.
Aaron Neesmith.
Michael Neesmith, you know who he is?
Yeah, I do,
the
actually.
Monkeys.
Yeah.
I've been up to, maybe that's it. Maybe they got one of the monkeys over there.
With the monkeys.
Aaron Neesmith.
I've made that mistake on air a couple times.
But it actually is Nesmith with him. But and here you have a first-round draft pick, so you lose.
Right.
And I like Stackhouse. It's all about players in the beginning. That's all it is. So and what would have happened if Garland had not gotten hurt? And
sure. I don't think they would have. I don't think they would have took the collar last year under Bryce Drew in the SEC.
But now David Williams, the late David Williams, was grooming Candace for that position. There was reportedly a rainy day fund established that went away. Reportedly.
Right.
Some of it.
Also reportedly, some of that was used for Bryce Drew's buyout when he was fired.
A chunk of it. Yeah, a large chunk of it, obviously. Another and whatever. And there's always going to be facilities issues. Okay. Right. And what's going to happen with the football stadium and everything? And James Franklin, his success, got that indoor facility built, and then he obviously leaves. But you talk about being the private school. I've termed a long time ago, coined a phrase. Vanderbilt always, I call it selective poverty.
Right.
Okay. When they're want to be poor, they don't have any money. but when they have money, they can buy up rows and rows and streets around them. They can go out and buy the Legends golf course in Franklin, and so I don't buy that at all. It starts at the top, whoever this next chancellor is, and the board of trust. There's got to be a commitment there. At one time, the board of trust had people like a John Rich on there who played football at Vanderbilt,
right,
and wanted to make sure that it was. I don't know now. Maybe I should be able to name some of the top board of trust members, but California, they're there and everything. Yeah. I don't know that they're vested in athletics there and whatever. And certainly in this league, although basketball has been the bell cow at Vanderbilt from the Clyde Lee days all the way through the F Troop to Eddie Fogler to everything, football now has to be the bell cow because of what it means in the SEC, and they get $45 million a year from the league. Right. There has to be a comp. You always love this. Well, we're formulating a plan.
Right.
Well, I think they're formulating a plan about formulating a plan about formulating a plan.
Yeah, it's like when you have a meeting to schedule a meeting. Yes. See, and here's the thing. And like I said, I think Candace Story-Lee, can and will do a fantastic job as AD. But she comes out last week, her first press conference, and says our number one priority is fiscal responsibility. And I understand that's very important. You got to be good with your money. But I don't think they're saying that necessarily at Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Florida. You know, the athletic directors there are saying our number one priority is to be highly competitive and compete for championships on all sports, in the SEC. I mean, that kind of struck me a little bit. I don't know if it did you or not.
And it's you've heard these sayings that athletics is the front door to the universities.
Front porch,
and the front porch, rather, and just with everything. And I just think they're not growing fans. Okay, who's growing up or who's moving here? And people want to follow a winner. Okay,
right.
Derek Mason. Whatever you think of Derek Mason, he's out fighting a bear with a switch. Okay, and so you look at those universities, what their commitment is, being the only private school in the conference, and I think having right now a disjointed top tier of leadership where there's no commitment and there's really not enough, in my mind, a base of fans. When Tennessee had its down years, I mean, there were some PO'd Vol fans. Okay,
absolutely.
If Kentucky basketball doesn't go to the NCAA tournament one year, I mean, but I don't think there's enough that it really bothers them one way or the other.
Well, we shall see what the future holds for Vanderbilt
Athletics. And then you got Tim Corbin over there.
Right, I got to say, thank goodness for the baseball program. But I agree with you. I think, and our friend, guest on this show, friend of this show, friend of our show, Joe Rexroth from The Athletic, I think he brought up a great point last night on Sunday Sports Central when he joined us and said, Stackhouse has done a tremendous job with this basketball program. They're way more competitive probably than they should be right now. They come off the upset win last week over LSU, and I know that now that there's so much uneasiness and upheaval with the athletic department, a lot of people want to know, is Jerry Stackhouse long for this university and this basketball program? Seemed to indicate he wants to stick around, but he could be a flight risk now.
Well, and the tug of the NBA,
of course.
Yeah, and I'm
sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's his ultimate goal is to coach in the NBA.
And I don't think anything that's happened here is going to diminish his appeal for an NBA head coaching job.
Sure.
But I thought.
Look, I'm a Knicks fan. I will take him tomorrow if he wants to go coach the Knicks.
How they doing?
They're not very good.
You're one of the probably most dysfunctional ownerships in all of pro sports, and so.
Yeah. So, but should Vanderbilt be worried about him being a flight risk at this point, or is it kind of is what it is?
I think so.
I think they know going in, like you said, that they're only going to have so long of a shelf life with him.
Well, and you use him to get better.
Right.
You mentioned Western Kentucky, where I grew up and everything. And I always wanted our basketball coach to be wanted by somebody else, right? Because they're not being wanted by somebody else, they're getting fired. So, it's what it is.
Greg Pogue is here, taking your phone calls. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk some Titans football. Big offseason coming up for the Two-Tone Blue. Big decisions need to be made. We're going to get the Pogster's thoughts on that, plus your phone calls. Stay with us.